What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Playbook Sports Podcast. This is officially day one of the NFL offseason, so I figure what better way to get into the spirit than with a first-round mock draft coming to you guys with the official order for the first-round picks 1 through 32 are locked in. With the Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl, I think all that does is cement just how important this day in the NFL offseason is, just how important the NFL draft truly is. You look at that Eagles roster, and somehow they have just managed to get so much talent through the draft. And kudos to Howie Roseman and their entire scouting department because they continue to nail their picks year in and year out. It all starts right here. This is how you build a championship caliber team. We're going to do one-round mock draft today, and we will probably have another two-round mock draft later this week, along with some individual team 7-round mock drafts coming to you guys shortly. So without further ado, let's launch the PFF mock draft simulator and get right into this. With pick number 1, Tennessee Titans are on the clock here, and I'm gonna go with Travis Hunter. I don't think I go with him very often. Corner's a need. I think you play him at corner. I think it's where he's best suited. They also need receiver help too. Is he the generational talent they're talking about? Again, I'm not saying these guys are generational, just to address a comment on our most recent mock draft. I'm not saying these guys are generational. That's what the Titans have said. Maybe not about this player, but about a player. They have said there's a generational talent in this class. Travis Hunter does something people don't do. He played 1,400 snaps of college football this year playing both ways. Maybe he can do it in the pros. I don't know. That's a tough thing to do. It's a tough ask, but it's not impossible. So we're going to go Travis Hunter at pick 1 here, change it up just a little bit. Cleveland Browns on the clock here at pick 2. I am going to go with a quarterback. I've been giving them Abdul Carter. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to go with quarterback Cam Ward. You still need to figure out that position. Deshaun Watson, even when he's healthy, he's detrimental to your team. He's not healthy. He's going to be out the entire season next season. It feels kind of like a no-brainer to me. You've got to get someone in that position. I think Cam Ward is the best quarterback in this class. You let Callahan pick his guy, and I think that will probably be Cam Ward. Giants on the clock here at pick number 3. I think it's an interesting discussion to have between Abdul Carter and a QB, or do you go offensive line here? I'm going to go with a quarterback. I'm going to go with Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. Now, does that mean I think he's the third best player in this draft? Absolutely not. And I don't know how well he'll do in New York, especially early on with only one good receiver in Malik Neighbors. Sorry to everybody else in that roster. And an offensive line that has really struggled. He's going to need a good team around him. Think of it like Jared Goff's situation. He needs a good team around him or they're going to struggle. And as soon as you get a good team around him, he thrived. Patriots on the clock here at pick number 4. All offense is listed here. They need running back, wide receiver, guard, tackle. You don't do that when Abdul Carter's on the board. You just don't do that. I'm taking Abdul Carter for New England here. I think that's a slam dunk pick for Mike Vrabel on his defense. Abdul Carter is the highest upside, I think, of any player in the entire draft class. Put up fantastic stats as his first season as a true edge rusher, and he's just scratching the surface of what he can do. When the combine happens, he's going to be the consensus number 1 player in this draft, assuming he attends it, because he's that much of an athletic specimen. But we're going to go with Abdul Carter at pick 4, leaving the Jaguars on the clock here, and I am begging them to take a corner. I really think that they need that position so badly. But I will switch it up again here a little bit. I'm going to go with Mason Graham out of Michigan. Again, I've said it before. I think the Michigan men are most likely to go picks 5 and 7. One of them to the Jags and one of them to the Jets. But I'm going to stay with Mason Graham here at pick 5. He is so disruptive as an interior defensive lineman. He will cause all sorts of problems, open things up for Josh Allen Hines, or Hines Allen, whichever way it's in, and Trayvon Walker as well, who's starting to kind of come into his own. So Mason Graham going at pick number 5. Raiders on the clock here with some interesting choices. They've got talent on the board at positions of need. They need a corner. Every corner is on the board except Travis Hunter. They need a receiver. Every receiver is on the board here. I'm going to go ahead and give them Will Johnson out of Michigan. I'm not sleeping on him anymore. I hope people stop sleeping on him. I think Will Johnson is supremely talented and is built for the modern NFL, especially with his size and his coverage abilities. He's 6'2", 200-plus pounds. He's going to be a lockdown corner if he's developed right, and I don't think you need to do a whole lot of developing with him. I think he's already ready to roll. So I like Will Johnson there. I just think he's arguably best player available in that spot. Jets on the clock here. They need a QB because it sounds like Aaron Rodgers is out of town. They need D-line and they need defensive backs. They need a corner, assuming DJ Reed walks. I think you probably just try and go best player available if you can find it. I'm going to give them a guy that I think should fly up boards here soon. It makes me sad because I wouldn't mind him in Miami. I think Walter Nolan's a top 10 pick. I'm going to put my flag on that right now. I think Walter Nolan is a top 10 pick in this draft. I think he's a top 5 or 6 talent in this draft. He is that good. I think it is way closer between him and Mason Graham than some people want to admit. And that is a football name, Walter Nolan. That is an Aaron Donald-esque name. I'm not saying he's going to be Aaron Donald, but that's a strong name, people. We got to start putting some weight in that, and that is a strong name. Carolina on the clock here at pick number 8. Defensive line and defensive backs are the needs. You could argue Malachi Starks to be a leader on that defense. You could also argue Mike Green here for them. They need edge rush help. That's actually where I'm going to go, is Mike Green out of Marshall. Cannot ignore the production. I know traits. I would like to see it on the football field. I'd like to see what you do when the pads come on. These guys are going to test. Some of these guys are going to test off the charts, and it's like, oh, they could be this. Or I can take the guy that produces already and will continue to produce. That's just my take. I'm a big Mike Green guy. I think he's going to be good. I wasn't initially, but the more I've watched and the more I've studied his tape, I think he's going to be really good in this league. New Orleans Saints on the clock here. I know it's not listed as a need, but you really do need offensive linemen. You need an interior guy. It just hasn't worked out with several of the picks. I think that they hit on Talize Fuanga, but I do think Will Campbell probably comes off the board here for them. They need defensive line. They could use a wide receiver. Tetairoa McMillan still being on the board is very, very intriguing for me. All right, I'll go Tetairoa McMillan. I'll bite. Let's do that. Let's go Tetairoa McMillan there. Give them a number 1 receiver to go alongside of already number 1 Chris Olave. It sounds like it's Derek Carr's season again until proven otherwise. He's the QB and a guy that can go up and win any one-on-one battle in Tetairoa McMillan. I don't hate that at all. It's definitely a need for them. I mean, Rashid Shaheed was doing the Lord's work for them this year, and Taysom Hill, you need somebody out there. So I'm going to go with Tetairoa McMillan there. Saints fans, I know that they wanted a guy like Will Campbell. I know that they have other wants in this, but I'm going to go with Tetairoa McMillan. Bears on the clock here at pick number 10. This is coming down to 2 or 3 guys for me, and they're all 3 pictured here. Ashton Jeanty, Will Campbell, and James Pierce Jr. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be really good, man. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be so good in the NFL. And I'd be banking on the Bears to do right in free agency and to get players that want to come play there. Like, they have all the money in the world. So does Washington. So does New England. All of these teams have millions of dollars in cap space. There's only so many players to go around. Trey Smith can only go to one place to be a starting guard. Dahlman, the center, can only go one place to be a starting center. So if you're banking on getting them, you're going to have to pay the most of everybody, and the Patriots can outbid the Bears. So I don't love chancing that and saying, oh, they're going to sign him in free agency, because what if they don't? What if they don't? And even if they do, free agents don't always hit. I'm going to go with Will Campbell here as the offensive lineman. Can play tackle. Absolutely think he can. His arms aren't the stereotypical arm length, and he's a little stiff sometimes in his blocking, but he has put up some incredible tape at the position, especially as a pass blocker. I think he's got all of the right form to be an offensive tackle. I just don't know if the length will allow it. And if you have to move him into guard, that's okay. That is okay. He will be excellent at guard too. So we'll draft Will Campbell with the expectation that if he's not playing guard, he could kick out to left tackle for Braxton Jones and them. 49ers on the clock here. Guard, tackle, and defensive line. I wouldn't be shocked if they cut Javon Hargrave after this year. I would have to look at his contract to see if there's any outs in it and see if they could move on from him. But say they can. And say Kenneth Grant tests as crazy as I think he's going to test at the combine. No, the sack number, I don't care about the sack numbers. He's a freak in the middle. He's super strong. Some of him alongside Mason Graham, if he didn't play alongside Mason Graham, we'd be talking about him as a top 15 guy in this draft, I think, pretty easily. I don't know why we aren't anyways. I understand he was alongside someone great, but there's no need to diminish what he does and how well he plays the game because of who he played next to. So I'm going to go with Kenneth Grant, I think. I'm going to go with Kenneth Grant here to San Francisco, and that brings up Dallas on the clock. And there's 2 things I can do here. I can go with the pick that I think is right, or I can go with the pick that saves Colin from having to take Ashton Jeanty, who I think is the right pick in this spot. I do. I think Ashton Jeanty, again, is going to be great in the NFL. I know Cowboys fans do not want that, and I get it. So what? Then you go offensive line. I don't think Josh Simmons goes this high. I don't think they need a right tackle. You got Terrence Steele. No, you don't. Yeah, Terrence Steele's your right tackle. I'm sorry, Colin. I think it's gonna be Ashton Jeanty. I think he's gonna be the pick. I'm gonna take James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. I love James Pierce Jr. I love his production in the league. And if you do trade Micah Parsons, which is not off the table, that's apparently being discussed, And if DeMarcus Lawrence is still hurt, or I believe he's even a free agent, if you don't bring him back, who do you have to rush the passer? You don't have anybody. Go get someone young. Go get someone super talented like James Pierce, and let him be the guy that just goes after the QBs. And then if you keep Micah Parsons, fantastic. You've got a running mate for him for as long as you guys keep them together. There's nothing wrong with having 2 good edge rushers. We just saw in the Super Bowl having a great defensive line that can get home with 4 is a massive advantage to have. Miami Dolphins on the clock here at pick number 13. It's been mocked a lot, and I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to go Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas, mainly because of the positional flexibility. He can play guard. He can play tackle. We could use him at left tackle if Teron Armstead decides to retire, and maybe we don't want Patrick Paul to play that position, or we want Patrick Paul to play that position, and Kelvin Banks is a starting guard. Either way, you have to address the offensive line here. And they've come out and said as much, where they're like, all right, we're going to invest a lot more in the offensive line. Now, do I trust Chris Grier to do that? Not even a little bit. He's not been great at drafting offensive linemen, put a ton of resources into it, and pretty much struck out across the board, except for a few sort of hits here and there. But I'm going to go Kelvin Banks. I do think he is the overall probably, I think he's better than Will Campbell. I'll say it. I think he's a better offensive line prospect overall than Will Campbell, but it's close. They're both solid. Colts on the clock here, and it's boring because it's probably what's going to happen if he's available. It's Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State. He is a do-it-all guy. You telling me Anthony Richardson wouldn't love to have this guy open for him all the time? He's a smart football player. He's a Brock Bowers type of chess piece. Now, maybe he's not as good as Brock Bowers is, but he's damn good. He can block. He can catch. He can run. He can throw the ball if you want him to. He can do everything. And that's something I think that Shane Steichen will want in his offense. It's a great safety blanket for Anthony Richardson, again, as you're trying to evaluate whether he's the guy or not. So we'll go Tyler Warren there at pick 14. Bringing up the Atlanta Falcons on the board here, wide receiver, edge, linebacker, and corner. It's been a common theme to give them Mykel Williams out of Georgia, but I'm gonna switch it up this time, and I know I have to search for him a little bit, and I don't know why PFF doesn't have him rated very highly. I think Jalen Walker is a very good pick for them here. He stays right there in Georgia. You have 2 needs, edge and linebacker. He can play either one. Whichever one you need him to play for that game, he could probably play it pretty well. I would have him as off-ball linebacker. He's shown that he can do that at a high level. Maybe he can be a great edge rusher. I don't know. I do know he can be a really good off-ball linebacker, and he can be a green dot wearer on that defense. And I like the fit. I like the fit in Raheem Morris's defense. So I'm going to go Jalen Walker there at pick 15. Arizona on the clock here, needing offensive linemen, guard, tackle, or a defensive lineman. I'm going to go Armand Membu here as the right tackle. And Paris Johnson Jr., I'm not sure which side he plays. I want to say he plays on the left side. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cardinals fans. Either way, Membu will play the other tackle position, and he'll play it at a high level. Armand Membu is my favorite watch of the offseason so far. His tape is great. He can help. He is a phenomenal run blocker, has good moves in pass pro. He's really good at feinting a jab and getting defensive linemen off balance, and he's got a strong initial punch, too. He hits you with that initial punch on dropbacks, then he feints it, and you try and go around, and he's right there because he's got good feet. I love Armand Membu. I think he should be higher than this, truthfully, but it just so happens he goes to 16. And this is where I've got the Ashton Jeanty fall stopping. I don't see any way he gets past Cincinnati, and I've continued to say this over and over. First of all, you plop him next to Joe Burrow, and watch out for that offense next year, especially if you franchise tag T. Higgins one more year. You've got Jeanty, Chase, and Higgins all together. Yeah, thank you. That's explosive. You can't load up to stop Jeanty in that situation. You have to play against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, too, and Mike Gesicki, who's been solid. So I love that pick for them. It just makes their offense that much better. And yeah, Chase Brown's been good, but that doesn't stop you from drafting. It just simply does not stop you from drafting Ashton Jeanty. Seattle Seahawks on the clock here, needing edge and linebacker as well as center and guard. So we'll look at the edges, and you need a pass rushing edge. You need a guy that can get after the quarterback, and it's a Mike McDonald style defense. I could see someone like Shamar Stewart here. I don't know how Seahawks fans will feel about that. He looked great at the Senior Bowl. I wish he would have stayed. He's more of the defensive lineman in the shade of Matabike, who Mike McDonald, obviously, very, very familiar with, having come from Baltimore. I think his stock has continued to climb as things have gone on, and we'll see how he tests and what he weighs in at. But I don't consider him a true edge. I consider him kind of a 3-4 interior edge rusher, and in which case, then technically, yeah, he's an edge rusher. So I'm going to go Shamar Stewart there to Seattle. Bringing up Tampa Bay here, needing edge, linebacker, and DB. I'm going to have them go with Mykel Williams here. Interesting, he's the 18th player averagely picked right about here. I like the fit in the defense. They need pass rushers. This is the higher upside guy, but he's also a great run-stopping defensive lineman already. He's already, like, that's the floor, is a great run stopper, decent pass rusher. Imagine he takes that next step as a pass rusher. Now you've got him shutting down the run and getting after the quarterback. Shuts down the whole side of that field right there. I like the pick. I think he can be good, but I prefer production on the field versus traits. Even with his production on the field, he's still worth a top 20 pick. He's a great run-stopping edge rusher. But imagine he gets good at pass rushing too, and then watch out. That's why these guys go so early, because you're like, imagine. So even he's top 20 with what he is and what I think he can be, but then if you just project him that much further in Todd Bowles' defense, watch out. He'll be a monster. Denver on the clock here at pick number 20. Need weapons. Not even going to entertain defense, although maybe I am. Malachi Stark still being on the board is interesting for sure. Broncos fans, how would you guys feel about that? I mean, you got decent weapons. You need a good number 2 behind Courtland Sutton without a doubt. But what if you took Tez Johnson later? What if you take Tez Johnson in the 3rd round? And now you've got a good group of receivers all kind of behind Courtland Sutton. You've got a great defense, but you need a safety. You lost Justin Simmons just a year ago. He's gone. I'm going to go Malachi Starks here. I think you can start getting a little younger on that defensive side of the ball, continue to grow in the offensive side too, and adding Malachi Starks to that defense would be electric. Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock here. Quarterback, wide receiver, and DB. This one's easy for me. I'm going with Luther Burden. I think he is being disrespected throughout all of this because his season wasn't very good. His quarterback sucked. Really hard to be a good wide receiver when your quarterback's not any good. 2023, when the quarterback played a ton better, pretty solid numbers. And he's not some small receiver. I mean, 5'11" is not massive. He's not towering over anybody. But I think he will be a really good complementary guy to George Pickens if Pickens is still there as more of your deep threat. And Luther Burden can run the intermediate routes. He's a great route runner. He's going to get open for whoever the quarterback is. So we're going to go Luther Burden at pick number 21. Going to the Chargers here. I know the fit is crazy. Colston Loveland to them would be awesome. And everyone wants that. But what if they don't? What if they want to go a different route here? What if they're like, no, I can't go Emeka Egbuka because he's more of the Ladd McConkey style receiver in the slot, the shiftier. They need somebody to stretch the field. Maybe that's Matthew Golden, someone I'm not the highest on. I will be the first to say it. Chargers fans, if you hate this pick, let me know about it. I'm going to go with Matthew Golden here. I don't like it because I don't love him as a prospect. I think he declared for the draft. Everyone's like, 1st round. And nobody questioned it. I don't understand it, but I'm going to go with it. We're going to roll with that there at pick 22. Chargers fans probably just close the video. See you guys later. Thanks for stopping by. Green Bay on the clock here, and it worked out to where Emeka Egbuka is available, and I know you need a corner, and Benjamin Morrison's there too. I just think Emeka Egbuka is too good to not take here. A great route running wide receiver, similarly to Luther Burden. He's always been productive, even with great receivers next to him, and we saw what happened to the Packers in the playoffs. All of their receivers were hurt. I swear I saw Jordy Nelson out there running routes for them. That's how deep they were having to get into their depth chart. They didn't have anybody left. And all of those guys that you've drafted over the past several years are getting closer and closer to getting that contract that we know the Packers won't give them. So we'll get younger at wide receiver and go with Emeka Egbuka, keep a young team young. Minnesota on the clock here, running back, guard, D-line, and corner. I'm going to go with one of my favorite. Man, there's some good guys. This class is good. This is a good draft class. It's not like elite, but it is solid. It is super solid. If they're going to go with the corner, it's going to be someone like Siobhan Ravel or maybe even Trey Amos, who they have the Brian Flores size. They have the length that he covets at corner. They have the one-on-one coverage abilities. Benjamin Morrison's coming off an injury. Jahdae Barron doesn't have the size that he loves, but at the same time, I've seen him do it on tape. I saw him play elite football this year. So I'm going to go with Jahdae Barron to Minnesota and ignore the running back position for now. Houston Texans on the clock here, and this is an easy pick for me. I think that Tyler Booker is the best guard in the class, assuming other guys from tackle don't kick in, how you want to deal with that. But I think Tyler Booker is as strong as it gets. He's a road-paving offensive lineman, and you need interior offensive lineman desperately in Houston, someone to help keep C.J. Stroud on his feet. So I like that fit there for Tyler Booker. And then we got the Rams on the clock here. Guys, they need offensive tackles. Their tackles are old, not very good anymore. And Rams fans have complained about it in the comments, which I appreciate. Always do. I love it when you guys tell me how wrong I am. It makes me feel good. I'm going to go with Josh Simmons. Him being available here feels like a steal for them. And PFF is way higher on him than I am. I do think he falls somewhere in the mid-20s because he was hurt this year. I don't know how he would have played. He was hurt. He played solid in the 6 games he was playing. But over the full course of a season, I don't know what he would have done. So I'm going to go Josh Simmons at pick 26. Bringing the Baltimore Ravens up here, needing wide receiver, tackle, edge, and corner. I know they want offensive linemen. Ronnie Stanley might be out the door. I'm going to take Gray Zabel, a Senior Bowl darling, voted as the best player at the Senior Bowl by all the coaches in attendance, almost unanimously. I think only one or two didn't vote him as the best player there. He's got great flexibility to play anywhere. I mean, you've got a 7th rounder in Andrew Voorhees playing at left guard. Maybe he doesn't cut it anymore, and you bring back Ronnie Stanley, and you want to go with Gray Zabel instead. I totally get that. Or if Ronnie Stanley walks, you save the money, you play Gray Zabel out at left tackle. I don't have any issues with that either. Detroit Lions on the clock here at pick 28. Their offense was not the problem in the playoffs. Their defense was. Their defense got absolutely tore up. They need edge rusher help, and I have continued to give them Jack Sawyer. I won't do that this time, and I don't know why, because I think he's a perfect fit for them, but for the sake of changing it up and keeping everybody on their toes, I'm going to go with Nick Scourton out of Texas A&M. I've said it before. I think he played too heavy this year at Texas A&M. I think they asked him to bulk up and play a different style of football than what he was playing at Purdue. At Purdue, he was way more explosive, a way better first step. If I'm taking him, I'm asking him, let's get back down to that 265, 270 range instead of the 285 he was playing at A&M. Let's get explosive again. You're already great against the run. Now we add some pass rushing stuff to it, and he's a tough defensive lineman. He is tough, man. I saw him duke it out with Will Campbell. It was back and forth. I would not declare Will Campbell the winner of that matchup. I think it was pretty much a draw. And getting him at pick 28 to a team that desperately needs edge rushing help because Aiden Hutchinson was out this year and it showed the lack of depth at that position, I'm going to go with Nick Scourton here. Washington on the clock, needing wide receiver, tackle, edge, and corner. I'm going to go with Benjamin Morrison. Just give Dan Quinn some cornerback help. They obviously whiffed on their first round pick just a couple of years ago, deciding that Christian Gonzalez wasn't good enough for him. That was really smart of that last regime. Nice work, idiots. And I'm going to help rectify that and give them a good corner here in Benjamin Morrison. Buffalo on the clock, needing a little bit of help kind of all over, wide receiver, D-line, linebacker, and corner. Could see them going with someone like a Tyleek Williams. Could see them going with, not a linebacker, could see them going with a Trey Amos. Could absolutely see them going with Trey Amos here. And as a matter of fact, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give them Trey Amos. Really good cover corner, really solid length for the position, really good athlete too, really good hip movement. He's got very fluid hips. I think Trey Amos can be really solid. They need cornerback help, especially we saw it against the Chiefs. Their corners were just hurt. And Kyer Elam, another guy, there's a huge miss as a first-round pick. He just has not done anything for them. The days of Trey White being there are gone. Rasul Douglas is a free agent. You need to get younger at corner. Trey Amos brings that for you. Chiefs on the clock here, and after the Super Bowl, I will not entertain anything other than an offensive lineman. Joe Thuney played great as a tackle spell. He's an all-pro guard. Quit having him cosplay as a left tackle because you have failed to address that position. You need a left tackle, and you've got one here in Josh Connerly Jr. That's what you need. You desperately need a tackle. I won't hear anything else. They got bullied. There are 5 offensive linemen. Multiple of them, Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber guys, got absolutely bullied by the Eagles' defensive line. And you have to rectify that situation. You have to fix that. Just because Joe Thuney played great, okay, Caliendo was beat up on the interior. Patrick Mahomes had nowhere to step up because Caliendo, Humphrey, and Smith, to be fair, all struggled against that defensive front of Philadelphia. Time to get a little better on the offensive line, guys. Chiefs fans were telling me they don't want to tackle. That's insane to me. Re-sign Nick Bolton so you don't need a linebacker, and then get a starting left tackle, please. Philadelphia on the clock here, and they always go at the same positions. It's going to be probably in the trenches, probably an offensive lineman. Lane Johnson will retire in the not-too-distant future, most likely. I don't see a tackle on here I think that they go for, though, honestly, at least at this spot. Maybe it's a trade-down spot. It probably is a trade-down spot for someone to come up and get Jackson Dart. That wouldn't surprise me at all. If the Eagles are like, yeah, we'll move back, you come up, get a QB, we'll take some extra picks, call it good. But since I'm not doing trades here, why not Colston Loveland? Next year, you've still got your offensive line intact. The defense is still going to be great because it's so young and full of cheap players that are talented as all hell. Why not get a mismatch at the tight end position? Dallas Goedert's been solid. He's not anything spectacular, no offense to him. And maybe they don't love it because he's not the best blocking tight end, but I don't think he's a bad blocking tight end. And Colston Loveland is just too talented to not be picked in the first round. I think there's several spots he could go, but the way the board fell, he winds up being available here at pick 32 for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I don't hate that. Eagles fans, I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments what you guys think about that, but I think he could really help elevate that offense to an even another level. And they're already going to be so good next year. I think the Eagles have to be the favorite to win the Super Bowl again next year with how this roster is constructed. Howie Roseman is so good. So good at his job. So that is the first round mock draft post Super Bowl with the official 32 pick set. It is officially day number 1 of the offseason. This is Christmas for all of those teams that don't win the Super Bowl. If you're not a Chiefs fan, an Eagles fan, and realistically a 49ers fan, this is one of the best days of the year for us, folks. So yay, good for us. Sucks. This is a real sad exercise sometimes, but it's the way it is. So let me know what you guys think about all these picks. Let me know if you like the direction I went with in your team. Some guys fall. It's going to happen. There's so much talent that, like, I think Tyler Booker could go way higher than this. I think Tyler Warren could go in the top 10, but then who do you take out of the top 10? It's like, and quarterbacks get pushed up. There's going to be 2, maybe 3 in the first round this year. I think they'll probably set the over-under at 2.5. I'm going over, but that's neither here nor there. So let me know what you guys think about this draft in the comments down below. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel as we're going to have some team-specific 7-round mock drafts coming out real soon. And we'll just continue to have weekly mock drafts for you guys here on the channel based on what we're hearing and what we're seeing. So we will see you guys in the next one.